20. Black celebrities who are rotting in jail. Fame can make you untouchable, or so it seems. Behind the glitz of red carpets and platinum records lie stories darker than anyone could imagine. From chart-topping rappers to Hollywood stars, and even sports legends, some of the most celebrated black celebrities now sit behind bars, their talent buried under the weight of their crimes. These aren't just scandals. They're shocking, cautionary tales that reveal how quickly success can spiral into destruction. Are you ready to uncover the truth? Hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence so you never miss the stories others won't tell. Antron Singleton. Antron Singleton, better known in the rap world as Big Lurch, once embodied both the promise and the pitfalls of hip-hop culture in the early 2000s. Born on June 15, 1976 in Dallas, Texas, he was a towering figure, not only physically standing at nearly 7 feet tall, but also musically with a deep, commanding voice that set him apart from many of his peers. In the late 1990s, he joined the rap group The Whole Damn Year Twi-D, and later pursued a solo career building a reputation for dark, graphic storytelling. His lyrics often reflected themes of struggle, violence, and survival in environments marked by poverty and crime. To fans of underground rap, Big Lurch was an artist who wasn't afraid to paint vivid, if disturbing, pictures of reality. But everything changed in April 2002. After a series of personal and professional struggles, Singleton committed one of the most shocking crimes in hip-hop history. He brutally murdered his 21-year-old roommate Tynesha Esais in South Central Los Angeles. According to court records, not only was she stabbed multiple times, but forensic evidence revealed that parts of her body had been cannibalized. The gruesome nature of the crime shocked the entire music industry and left fans speechless. Prosecutors argued that Big Lurch was under the influence of PCP at the time, a drug that had long been linked to violent psychosis. In 2003, he was convicted of first-degree murder and aggravated mayhem, receiving a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. This outcome abruptly ended what could have been a promising career. Instead of building on his early momentum, Big Lurch became a cautionary tale, an example of how drugs, unchecked mental health struggles, and destructive decisions can ruin a life and end another. Some fans still revisit his music, noting the eerie foreshadowing in his lyrics, while others see him only as a murderer undeserving of sympathy. Antron Singleton remains incarcerated in California, his name synonymous not with the talent he once displayed, but with the horror of a crime that will never be forgotten. His story is one of wasted potential, haunting questions and the thin line between creativity and destruction. Quentin Carter. Quentin Carter, better known as Young QC, once stood on the edge of hip-hop stardom, admired for his lyrical sharpness and his ability to capture the raw emotions of Southern street life. Born in 1989 in Chicago, he carved out a following in the underground rap scene, mixing trap beats with unflinching honesty about survival, ambition, and hardship. Fans believed he was a voice that could rise above adversity, an artist who reflected the struggles of his environment while pushing toward a brighter future. His music carried an energy that suggested longevity, and many thought it was only a matter of time before mainstream recognition came knocking. But the promise of fame and money turned into a nightmare. In 2013, the shocking news broke that Carter had orchestrated the murder of his own mother, Yolanda Holmes, a well-known Chicago salon owner. Prosecutors revealed that Carter hired a hitman to kill her so he could inherit her life insurance policy and gain full access to her financial assets. The crime was not just brutal, it was deeply personal, a betrayal of the very person who had supported him and helped build the foundation for his career. Court records showed that he even flaunted luxury items and money on social media after her death, an act that outraged the public and painted him as unrepentant. The trial was a media sensation, sparking heated debates about greed, morality, and the dangers of a culture obsessed with wealth and fame. In 2020, Carter was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to 99 years in prison, ensuring he will likely spend the rest of his life behind bars. The sentence shocked some of his supporters but also brought a sense of closure to a community horrified by his betrayal. For many, young QC's story is more than just another cautionary tale. It is one of the darkest chapters in hip-hop history. Unlike rappers whose careers collapsed due to drugs or street violence, Carter's downfall stemmed from a chilling act of greed against the one person who loved him most. His legacy is not one of resilience or redemption, but of wasted talent, moral collapse, and the haunting reality that fame cannot replace integrity. Marion Hugh Knight Jr. Marion Hugh Knight Jr., better known as Suge Knight, is one of the most infamous figures in the history of hip-hop. Born on April 19, 1965 in Compton, California, he grew up in an environment shaped by both opportunity and danger. Initially pursuing football, Knight played for the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and even had a brief stint in the NFL. Yet his true calling came in music, where his imposing presence and sharp business instincts helped him build a rap empire. In 1991, he co-founded Death Row Records, a label that would forever change the face of West Coast hip-hop. Under Knight's leadership, Death Row became the powerhouse behind some of the genre's greatest legends, including Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac Shakur. Albums like The Chronic and Doggy Style defined an era, while Tupac's signing made the label synonymous with gangsta rap. But behind the platinum records and chart-topping singles, Knight developed a reputation for intimidation, violence, and ruthless business tactics. Tales of strong-arming artists and using fear as leverage began to overshadow his success. The murder of Tupac Shakur in 1996 marked a turning point both for Death Row and for Knight himself. The label's dominance began to crumble amid lawsuits, bankruptcies, and feuds. By the 2000s, Suge Knight's influence had waned, but his reputation for violence persisted. In 2015, during the filming of the movie Straight Outta Compton, Knight was involved in a fatal hit-and-run incident in Compton, killing one man and injuring another. Prosecutors argued that he intentionally used his truck as a weapon during a heated confrontation. Do you believe Suge Knight was a victim of the violent culture he helped create, or was he simply responsible for his own downfall? In 2018, Suge Knight pleaded no contest to voluntary manslaughter and was sentenced to 28 years in prison. For a man once at the top of the music world, it was a staggering fall from power. His story illustrates the dangerous intersection of art, business, and violence in hip-hop. While his contributions to the genre are undeniable, his legacy is forever clouded by crime controversy and the tragic realization that the empire he built ultimately consumed him. Terrell Davis. Terrell Davis, known in the rap world simply as Row, represents another story of talent colliding with poor choices that derailed a promising career. Born on February 12, 1995 in Atlanta, Georgia, he grew up in a city that has long been a breeding ground for hip-hop greatness. Row quickly caught the attention of local audiences with his sharp lyrics and gritty delivery, channeling the struggles of street life into music that resonated with authenticity. His mixtapes began circulating in the mid-2010s, showcasing his ability to blend storytelling with raw energy, and soon he gained the notice of industry giants. His big break came when Future, one of Atlanta's most influential artists, signed him to the Free Bands label. With this endorsement, Row seemed destined for bigger stages. His collaborations with other artists built momentum, and tracks that described ambition, survival, and resilience positioned him as a rising star. In an industry where standing out is notoriously difficult, Row's distinctive voice and unfiltered perspective made him stand apart. To fans in the South, he was more than another rapper. He was a reflection of their lived realities. But in 2018, the trajectory of his career collapsed when he was arrested on drug trafficking charges. Authorities accused him of being deeply involved in the distribution of controlled substances, and the case drew widespread attention due to his growing fame. His arrest not only shocked fans, but also highlighted the persistent link between street culture and the music industry. Many wondered whether Row had ever truly left the environment he rapped about, or if he had simply been living both lives at once. Despite his incarceration, Row has continued to release music often recorded through phone calls or shared via his associates. These projects reveal a more reflective artist grappling with the consequences of his decisions and speaking candidly about life behind bars. For supporters, his resilience keeps hope alive that he might one day turn his story around. Yet his imprisonment remains a stark reminder of how quickly potential can be derailed, leaving behind a legacy defined as much by what could have been as by what truly was. Corey Miller. Corey Miller, better known as C. Murder, was once one of the most powerful voices in the New Orleans rap scene. Born on March 9, 1971 in the Calliope Projects, he was immersed from a young age in the realities of poverty and violence that would later shape his music. As the younger brother of Master P, founder of No Limit Records, Corey was well positioned to make his mark on the industry. And he did through his solo work and as part of the group True C Murder, gained recognition for his unfiltered lyrics, gritty storytelling, and ability to capture the essence of Southern street life. His albums Life or Death 1998 and True 2 Dog Game became staples of the late 1990s rap movement, cementing his reputation as a raw and uncompromising artist. Yet his career took a devastating turn in 2002 when he was arrested for the shooting death of a 16-year-old Steve Thomas during a nightclub altercation in Harvey, Louisiana. Prosecutors argued that Miller fired the fatal shot in a crowded club, while the defense maintained that the evidence was weak and unreliable. The trial was plagued with controversy. Witnesses later recanted their statements, claiming they had been pressured into testifying against him. Despite these doubts, he was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without parole. The case has remained one of the most debated in hip-hop history. Supporters, including high-profile figures like Kim Kardashian, Monica, and Master P, have advocated for his release, arguing that the justice system failed him. His lawyers have repeatedly sought new trials, pointing to inconsistent testimony and questionable procedures. While these efforts have kept his name in headlines, they have not yet secured his freedom. From behind bars, C. Murder has continued to write and release music often filled with reflections on injustice, perseverance, and the harsh realities of incarceration. For many fans, his voice still carries the authenticity that first drew them in. But for others, his story stands as a tragic reminder of how violence and the justice system can intersect to end even the most promising careers. Corey Miller remains in prison, a symbol of both the triumphs and tragedies of Southern hip-hop. Torrance Hatch Jr. Torrance Hatch Jr., famously known as Lil Boosie or Boosie Badazz, carved his name into the rap world as one of Baton Rouge's most authentic voices. Born on November 14, 1982, he grew up in South Baton Rouge, an area marked by poverty and crime, and from an early age he turned to music as an outlet. By the late 1990s, Boosie was already making waves in the local rap scene with his sharp delivery and unfiltered stories about life in the South. His albums Bad As 2006 and Superbad: The Return of Boosie Badazz 2009 showcased his lyrical prowess and cemented him as one of the key figures in Southern hip-hop. Boosie's music resonated because it was unapologetically real. He spoke directly to fans living in similar conditions, people grappling with poverty, violence, and systemic neglect. His rise was not just about catchy hooks, but about being a voice for the voiceless. However, his personal life soon became as dramatic as his lyrics. In 2009, he was convicted on drug charges and sentenced to 4 years in prison. That same year, he was also indicted on first-degree murder charges in connection to a shooting, a case that drew nationwide attention. Though he was eventually acquitted of the murder in 2012, the period solidified his reputation as one of rap's most controversial figures. In addition to those charges, he faced legal troubles tied to firearms parole violations and repeated run-ins with law enforcement. These cases continually threatened to derail his career, yet Boosie remained resilient. Upon his release in 2014, he returned to the studio and reignited his career, dropping albums and features that reminded fans of his undeniable talent. He even rebranded as Boosie Badazz, signaling a new era. What makes Boosie unique is his ability to stay relevant despite constant controversy. He has been outspoken about issues affecting the Black community health struggles like his battle with cancer and the realities of incarceration. His story reflects both the pitfalls of fame and the resilience of an artist who refuses to be silenced. While his brushes with the law have defined parts of his legacy, his music continues to resonate, keeping him a central if polarizing figure in hip-hop. Robert Sylvester Kelly. Robert Sylvester Kelly, widely known as R. Kelly, was once one of the most successful and influential R&B artists of his generation. Born on January 8, 1967 in Chicago, Illinois, he grew up in difficult circumstances but discovered music as his salvation. By the early 1990s, Kelly had cemented himself as a global superstar with chart-topping hits like Bump and Grind, I Believe I Can Fly, and Ignition Remix. His smooth vocals, innovative production, and ability to blend soul, gospel, and hip-hop made him a household name, earning him multiple Grammy Awards and millions of devoted fans around the world. For decades, he was celebrated as the King of R&B, a title that few contested. However, behind the fame was a dark history that eventually came to light. Allegations of sexual abuse and exploitation followed R. Kelly for over 2 decades, with lawsuits and testimonies painting a disturbing picture. Many young women accused him of manipulation, coercion, and physical and emotional abuse. For years, he denied the claims, continuing to release music and perform to sold-out crowds. The industry largely turned a blind eye until the 2019 documentary series, Surviving R. Kelly, reignited public outrage. The harrowing accounts from survivors sparked a cultural reckoning, leading to renewed investigations and a collapse of his career. In 2021, Kelly was found guilty on federal charges of racketeering and sex trafficking crimes that exposed a long-running pattern of predatory behavior. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison, a dramatic fall from grace for a man once celebrated as a musical genius. His conviction became a landmark moment, highlighting systemic failures in both the music industry and the justice system to protect vulnerable individuals. For many, R. Kelly's downfall serves as a reminder of the dangers of unchecked power in the entertainment world. His music still plays across generations, yet every note is now shadowed by his crimes. Once a legend who gave the world timeless anthems, Robert Sylvester Kelly now sits in prison, his name synonymous not with triumph, but with betrayal, exploitation, and the irreversible destruction of his legacy. Charles Maxwell Bell. Charles Maxwell Bell, known to fans as Max B, is a Harlem-born rapper whose unique sound carved out a distinct place in hip-hop. Born on May 21, 1978, he grew up in the vibrant yet gritty streets of New York, where music quickly became an outlet for expression and survival. By the mid-2000s, Max B emerged as a central figure in a new wave of rap blending smooth melodic hooks with raw street narratives. His partnership with Jim Jones and his early ties to the Diplomats gave him credibility, while his mixtapes like Public House and Coke Wave displayed a creativity that many considered ahead of its time. Max B's signature style, which he coined as the wave, wasn't just a sound, but an entire movement. His laid-back delivery mixed with catchy, almost hypnotic choruses became highly influential, paving the way for future artists such as French Montana, Wiz Khalifa, and even Kanye West, who credited Max B for inspiring the term wavy. To his loyal fan base, he was not just another Harlem rapper, but a trendsetter who shifted the culture. However, his rise came crashing down in 2009, when he was convicted for his role in a botched robbery that led to the murder of a man in New Jersey. Prosecutors argued that Max B orchestrated the crime, even if he wasn't the one who pulled the trigger. The court sentenced him to 75 years in prison. Despite being behind bars, Max B has continued to release music, often through collaborations and unfinished recordings. His charisma, slang, and creative energy still echo in the work of younger artists, proving that his impact remains alive even in absence. For many, Max B symbolizes the tension between innovation and self-destruction, an artist who gave the world a new wave but lost his freedom before fully riding it. His story reflects the tragedy of wasted potential, yet also the undeniable truth that his influence on hip-hop will never fade. Christopher Dorsey. Christopher Dorsey, better known as BG, is a New Orleans native who became one of the defining voices of Southern hip-hop in the late 1990s. Born on September 3, 1980, he grew up in the city's poverty-stricken neighborhoods where music quickly became both an escape and a weapon for survival. By the time he was a teenager, BG had already signed with Cash Money Records and joined forces with Juvenile, Lil Wayne, and Turk to form the Hot Boys, a group that would forever shape the sound of New Orleans rap. With his raspy voice and unflinching narratives, BG brought authenticity to tracks like Bling Bling, which not only popularized the phrase worldwide, but also highlighted the lavish lifestyle and street credibility of the group. BG's solo projects, including Chopper City and The Ghetto 1999, cemented his status as one of the most respected rappers in the South. His music vividly portrayed the struggles of street life addiction and perseverance, resonating with fans who saw themselves in his lyrics. He was celebrated for staying true to his roots and refusing to conform to mainstream trends. Yet beneath the success, BG struggled with personal demons, including heroin addiction and repeated run-ins with law enforcement. In 2012, his career came to a screeching halt when he was sentenced to 14 years in federal prison on charges of gun possession and witness tampering. Prosecutors revealed that BG had conspired with others to hide firearms, a serious offense given his criminal history. The sentence was a crushing blow for fans who had followed his rise from the streets of New Orleans to national fame. Do you think the justice system was too harsh on BG, or was his punishment a fair reflection of repeated mistakes? Even behind bars, BG has remained active in spirit. He continued writing music, communicating with fans through letters, and keeping his name alive in the culture. Artists like Lil Wayne and Birdman have publicly voiced support, ensuring his influence is not forgotten. To many, BG's incarceration represents not just the fall of a rapper, but the silencing of a vital voice in Southern hip-hop. His legacy endures, marked by both triumph and tragedy, a reminder of how fragile success can be when weighed down by the choices of the past. Carlos Coy. Carlos Coy, better known as South Park Mexican SPM, was a trailblazer in bringing Latin influences into Southern hip-hop. Born on October 5, 1970 in Houston, Texas, Coy grew up in the South Park neighborhood, a tough environment that would later inspire his stage name and lyrical themes. In the mid-1990s, he founded Dope House Records, creating a platform not only for himself, but also for other Latino artists who struggled to find representation in the mainstream rap industry. His debut album, Dead 1995, and later projects like The and Power Moves the Table, earned him a dedicated fan base. His songs blended English and Spanish street narratives and cultural pride, making him a unique voice in the rap landscape. SPM's influence grew rapidly, especially in Texas and among Latino communities nationwide. Tracks such as High So High showcased his ability to craft catchy yet raw songs that reflected the duality of hardship and ambition. He became known not just as a rapper, but as a symbol of representation, inspiring countless young artists of Mexican-American descent to pursue their craft. By the late 1990s, SPM was performing to sold-out crowds and was hailed as one of the most important underground rappers of his time. However, his career was cut short in 2002 when he was convicted of sexual assault of a child. The case shocked his fans particularly because it contrasted so harshly with his public persona as a community voice. Coy was sentenced to 45 years in prison, a sentence that devastated his fan base, but also sparked debates. Some of his supporters maintain his innocence, citing inconsistencies in the case, while critics argue that his crimes should overshadow his contributions to music. Even from behind bars, SPM has continued to release music with several albums and projects completed during his incarceration. His fan base remains fiercely loyal, often rallying online to campaign for his release, while others see him as a symbol of wasted talent and betrayal. Carlos Coy's story stands as one of the most polarizing in hip-hop, a man who helped pioneer Latino rap, yet whose name will forever be associated with one of the most serious crimes imaginable. Michael Jace. Michael Jace. Once a respected Hollywood actor is now remembered not for his talent on screen, but for the crime that destroyed his career and family. Born on July 13, 1962, in Paterson, New Jersey, Jace built his career in television and film throughout the 1990s and 2000s. He appeared in popular series such as Southland, The Menta, and IS, but The Shield in behind the cameras, however, his personal life was unraveling. On May 19, 2014, Jace's name hit headlines for all the wrong reasons when he was arrested for the murder of his wife, April Jace. According to investigators, a heated domestic dispute escalated into violence, and Jace fatally shot her in their Los Angeles home, reportedly in front of their 2 young children. The brutality of the act shocked fans and colleagues who had admired his work, turning admiration into disbelief. During the trial, prosecutors portrayed Jace as a man consumed by anger and jealousy, while his defense argued that the killing was not premeditated. In 2016, he was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 40 years to life in prison. The conviction left his children without both parents, one dead, the other imprisoned, and raised painful questions about domestic violence and how often warning signs go unnoticed in high-profile families. The fall of Michael Jace is particularly haunting because it juxtaposes his fictional role as a law enforcement officer with the reality of his crime. Once admired for bringing depth to complex characters, he is now serving time in California's prison system, his career and reputation destroyed. His story is not just about a wasted Hollywood career, it is a chilling reminder of how unchecked anger and violence can erase everything in a single moment. Tim Norman. James Timothy Norman, widely known as Tim Norman Welk. Born on July 16, 1979 in St. Louis, Missouri, Norman grew up in the shadow of his mother, Robbie Montgomery, a former Ikette singer who later opened the family-owned soul food restaurant chain Sweetie Pies. The show chronicled their business and personal lives, offering viewers an inside look at family food and legacy. Norman's charm and relatability made him a fan favorite, and many saw him as the natural heir to carry on his mother's empire. But behind the cameras, Norman's life spiraled into scandal and tragedy. In August 2016, his 21-year-old nephew, Andre Montgomery Jr., was shot and killed in St. Louis. Years later, shocking revelations surfaced. Prosecutors accused Norman of masterminding a murder-for-hire plot to cash in on a $450,000 life insurance policy he had secretly taken out on his nephew. Evidence presented in court revealed that Norman had conspired with multiple accomplices, including a woman who lured Andre to the location of the shooting and another individual who carried out the attack. The case rocked both fans of the show and the wider public, as the idea of a beloved reality star orchestrating his own nephew's death for money seemed unthinkable. In September 2020, Norman was arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit murder wire and mail fraud and other financial crimes. After a highly publicized trial filled with disturbing details, he was convicted in 2022 and sentenced to life in federal prison without parole. The downfall of Tim Norman is one of the most shocking reality TV scandals in recent memory. Once portrayed as a son dedicated to his mother's vision, he is now remembered as the man who destroyed his own family for profit. His case serves as a grim reminder that fame and public image can mask hidden motives and dark intentions. For fans of Welcome to Sweetie Pie's TV, Christopher Martin. Christopher Douglas. Roni, better known by his stage name Cool C, was once a promising rapper from Philadelphia who helped shape the sound of late 1980s East Coast hip-hop. Born on March 5, 1969, Martin became known for his confident delivery, smooth flow, and clever rhymes. As a member of the group C.E.B. Countin' Endless Bank and Juice Crew Diss, and his hit single Glamorous Life, which climbed the Billboard charts in 1989. At the height of his career, Kool C was signed to Atlantic Records, performing on major stages and representing Philadelphia as part of its golden era of rap. But while his music career opened doors, his personal choices soon closed them forever. By the mid-1990s, his popularity had faded and financial struggles loomed. In 1996, desperate for money, Kool C participated in a bank robbery alongside fellow rapper Steady B and another accomplice. The robbery, which took place at a PNC bank in Philadelphia, turned deadly when Philadelphia police officer Loreth was shot and killed during the attempted heist. The crime shocked the city and devastated the community, as Verde was the first female police officer killed in the line of duty in Philadelphia's history. Kool C was arrested, tried, and convicted of first-degree murder. In 1996, he was sentenced to death, a punishment that made headlines across the nation. Over the years, his execution has been scheduled multiple times, most notably in 2015, but has been repeatedly stayed due to appeals and legal complications. To this day, he remains on death row in Pennsylvania, awaiting the outcome of ongoing legal battles. Do you think someone who once brought joy through music deserves a second chance? Or should the weight of their crime define them forever? Kool C's story is one of the starkest contrasts in hip-hop history. A man who went from charting hits and performing on national television to facing the ultimate penalty for his role in a senseless act of violence. His legacy is now deeply tarnished, remembered less for his contributions to music and more for the tragedy that ended an officer's life and destroyed his own. Nathaniel Glover. Nathaniel Glover, better known in the music world as Kid Creole, was one of the pioneering voices of hip-hop's earliest days. Born on February 19, 1960 in the Bronx, New York, Glover grew up during a time when hip-hop was still taking shape on the streets. As a founding member of Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, he helped build the foundation of the genre, bringing rhymes, rhythm, and social commentary into the mainstream. With classic tracks like The Message 1982, the group not only entertained, but also shed light on the harsh realities of urban life. Their influence was so great that they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2007, the first hip-hop group ever to receive that honor. For decades, Kid Creole was celebrated as a cultural icon, known for his energetic performances and sharp stage presence. His legacy was tied to innovation, community pride, and the birth of a global movement. But in 2017, his name reappeared in headlines for a reason that stunned both fans and historians of the genre. Glover was arrested after a fatal altercation in Manhattan in which he stabbed a homeless man, John Jolly, during a late-night encounter. Prosecutors argued that the attack was unprovoked, while Glover's defense maintained he acted in self-defense, fearing Jolly's behavior. The trial dragged on for years, with hip-hop fans following every development. In 2022, Glover was convicted of first-degree manslaughter and sentenced to 16 years in prison. The sentence marked a shocking fall for someone once hailed as a pioneer of the culture. Kid Creole's incarceration is a sobering reminder that even legends are not immune to human flaws and poor decisions. While his role in shaping hip-hop will never be erased, his story is now forever tied to a tragic act of violence. For the fans who grew up idolizing him, it is a painful reminder of how quickly legacies can be tarnished, turning triumph into tragedy. Christopher Dooley Jr. Christopher Dooley Jr., best known as Hurricane Chris, stormed into the hip-hop scene with a burst of energy that matched his stage name. Born on March 7, 1989 in Shreveport, Louisiana, he grew up surrounded by the rich musical traditions of the South, where blues, gospel, and rap collided. By the time he was a teenager, his talent was undeniable. In 2007, he released his debut single, Mr. Baugh, a track that quickly became a nationwide anthem, dominating radio waves and club scenes. The song's infectious hook and Hurricane Chris's spirited delivery made him an overnight sensation. His debut album, 5150 Ratchet. While many newcomers faded after a single hit, Hurricane Chris maintained momentum with a mix of charisma, catchy beats, and collaborations that broadened his appeal. He became a symbol of Louisiana's vibrant hip-hop culture, known for blending party anthems with narratives rooted in resilience and ambition. Yet fame also brought scrutiny. Over the years, he faced challenges to his reputation, from shifting industry trends to personal controversies that threatened to overshadow his music. The turning point came in June 2020 when Hurricane Chris was arrested in Shreveport and charged with second-degree murder following a shooting incident outside a gas station. Police alleged that he shot and killed a man during an altercation, while Chris claimed it was an act of self-defense. The case drew intense attention, especially from fans who still remembered his early hits. The trial highlighted the complexity of split-second decisions and the devastating consequences that can follow. Hurricane Chris has continued to proclaim his innocence, with supporters rallying behind him, arguing that the situation was far more complicated than headlines suggested. Yet the charges cast a heavy shadow over his career, threatening to reduce a once-celebrated artist to a cautionary tale. His story reflects the fragile balance between success and downfall, and how quickly fame can turn into infamy. For fans, it is a heartbreaking reminder that the promise of youth and talent can be consumed by choices and circumstances that forever alter a legacy. Darren Sharper. Darren Sharper was once a celebrated figure in professional football, known for his remarkable skills and dominance as a defensive back in the NFL. Born on November 3, 1975 in Richmond, Virginia, he played college football at William & Mary before being drafted by the Green Bay Packers in 1997. Over the course of his 14-year career, he also played for the Minnesota Vikings and New Orleans Saints, 63 like Sharper Retty. But after his retirement, Sharper's reputation collapsed in one of the most disturbing scandals in modern sports. In 2014, shocking allegations surfaced that he had used drugs to incapacitate women before sexually assaulting them. Investigations revealed that incidents had occurred across several states, including California, Arizona, Louisiana, and Nevada. What began as a single accusation quickly grew into a pattern of predatory behavior that stunned the sports world and horrified the public. In 2016, Sharper pleaded guilty or no contest to multiple counts of drugging and raping women, cold 20-year federal prison sentence as part of a plea deal that addressed cases in multiple jurisdictions. Prosecutors described him as a serial predator who exploited his fame and charm to hide his crimes. The fall was staggering, from an NFL star with Hall of Fame potential to an inmate serving a lengthy sentence for some of the most serious offenses imaginable. For many fans, the Darren Sharper case is a painful reminder that sports heroes are not always role models. His legacy is now permanently stained with calls to strip him of any consideration for football honors. What could have been a celebrated retirement filled with endorsements and coaching opportunities turned instead into disgrace and imprisonment. Darren Sharper's story illustrates how fame, power, and unchecked behavior can combine into a dangerous cocktail, one that not only destroys lives but also leaves a dark scar on an entire sport. Jamel Maurice Demons. Jamel Maurice Demons, better known by his stage name YNW Melly, rose to prominence as one of the most intriguing young rappers of the late 2010s. Born on May 1, 1999 in Gifford, Florida, Melly grew up in a challenging environment marked by poverty and violence. Music quickly became his escape, and by his teenage years, he was already recording tracks that showcased a mix of melodic flow, emotional lyrics, and haunting subject matter. His breakout single Murder on My Mind 2017 became a viral sensation not only for its catchy rhythm, but also for its chilling storytelling, which eerily foreshadowed the charges he would later face. Melly's artistry drew comparisons to other genre-bending rappers because of his ability to balance vulnerability and aggression. Songs like Mixed Personalities featuring Khan. In February 2019, Melly was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of his close friends and fellow YNW crew members, Anthony YNW Sakchaser Williams and Christopher YNW Juvie Thomas Jr. Prosecutors alleged that Melly staged the killings to look like a drive-by shooting. The case immediately drew national headlines, with fans and critics divided over his guilt. While Melly has consistently proclaimed his innocence, the evidence presented has kept him entangled in one of the most high-profile rap trials of recent years. Despite being incarcerated, Melly's music continues to thrive. Tracks recorded before his arrest, along with features released while he awaits trial, have kept his name alive in hip-hop. His loyal fan base rallies behind the slogan, "Free Melly," seeing him as a victim of the system, while others argue that his lyrics reflect a dangerous reality rather than art. Whether he is eventually acquitted or convicted, Melly's story is already one of the most controversial in modern rap, a blend of immense talent haunting allegations and the uncertainty of what his legacy will ultimately become. Omar Broadway. Omar Broadway is a name known less for chart-topping hits and more for the stark reality of incarceration and underground rap culture. Born in Newark, New Jersey, Broadway grew up in a city with one of the highest crime rates in the country, where poverty, drugs, and violence shaped daily life. Unlike many rappers who first gained attention through mainstream mixtapes or viral songs, his notoriety came through a different channel: his experiences behind bars. He began writing lyrics and producing from prison, using whatever means he had to express frustration, resilience, and survival. Broadway's most notable contribution to hip-hop was the documentary Omar and Pete, and later his underground recordings, which captured the raw voice of a man struggling within the prison system. In 2007, he secretly recorded life inside New Jersey State Prison using a smuggled camera, creating one of the most authentic and controversial depictions of prison reality ever shown to the public. This footage later turned into the HBO documentary. An Omar Broadway film shocked audiences with its unfiltered look at overcrowding violence and the psychological toll of incarceration. For many, it proved that Broadway was not just another inmate. He was a voice exposing the failures of the justice system. In 2017, Omar Broadway was arrested again and charged with serious offenses that added years to his sentence. His reputation as both a rapper and a whistleblower made his story stand out. Unlike other artists whose downfall came after fame, Broadway's fame grew precisely because of his imprisonment. His lyrics often revolve around themes of redemption, injustice, and the harsh truth of living in a cell. Though not a mainstream star, Broadway's influence continues to ripple through hip-hop and social justice circles. His ability to turn confinement into art and activism highlights the thin line between personal choices and systemic oppression. For some, he remains a cautionary tale of wasted potential. For others, he symbolizes resilience, turning pain into expression. Omar Broadway may never headline arenas, but his name carries weight in the ongoing discussion about prison reform, hip-hop's authenticity, and the price of freedom. Travell Gerald Coleman. Travell Gerald Coleman, better known by his stage name G-Dep, was once one of the most promising artists on Sean Diddy Combs' Bad Boy Records roster. Born on November 19, 1974 in Harlem, New York, Coleman grew up in a community where hip-hop was more than music. It was a way of life. By the late 1990s, his gritty storytelling and raspy delivery caught the attention of industry insiders. His debut album, Child of the Ghetto 2001, produced the hit single Special Delivery, In Between. However, success didn't erase the struggles he carried within. Coleman battled drug addiction for years, and those demons weighed heavily on his career. Despite his undeniable talent, his momentum slowed and he faded from the spotlight. Then, in 2010, he shocked the music industry and his fans when he walked into a Harlem police precinct and confessed to a 1993 cold case murder. Cole. Although some questioned why he would voluntarily confess, Coleman stated in interviews that he wanted to clear his conscience and face the truth no matter the consequences. In 2012, he was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. His choice to come forward sparked debate. Was it an act of redemption or self-destruction? From behind bars, G-Dep continues to reflect on his decisions. While his career will forever be overshadowed by his crime, his story is unlike many others in hip-hop. He wasn't caught by police or betrayed by associates, but instead by his own conscience. For some, that makes his downfall even more haunting. Travell Gerald Coleman's legacy is now a mix of powerful, music-wasted potential and a rare, unsettling act of honesty that changed the course of his life forever. Rooney New Jr. Rooney New Jr. may not have achieved the same mainstream recognition as some of the other names on this list, but within his community and the underground rap circuit, he built a reputation as an authentic voice. Born and raised in a rough neighborhood, Rooney used music as both a lifeline and a storytelling tool, drawing inspiration from his personal experiences of struggle, survival, and ambition. His tracks often carried a raw, unpolished quality, reflecting not the gloss of major label production, but the grit of real life in the streets. For local fans, this authenticity gave him credibility and respect, even if it never translated into nationwide stardom. Despite his potential, Rooney's career was overshadowed by mounting legal troubles. He became entangled in a series of criminal cases that derailed his progress and ultimately landed him behind bars. Reports surrounding his incarceration suggest involvement in violent offenses, though details remain less widely publicized compared to the high-profile trials of figures like Suge Knight or R. Kelly. What is clear is that his imprisonment cut short the development of a career that might have grown into something greater had he stayed focused on his artistry. The tragedy of Rooney New Jr.'s story is how it mirrors the struggles of many underground artists who juggle ambition with the harsh realities of their environments. Without the infrastructure support or resources of major labels, artists like Rooney often remain vulnerable to the same cycles of crime they rap about. His incarceration underscores the fine line between art imitating life and life consuming the artist entirely. From a broader perspective, Rooney New Jr. represents the countless aspiring rappers whose names might not dominate the charts, but whose stories resonate deeply within their communities. His fall into the criminal justice system serves as a sobering reminder that talent alone cannot overcome systemic obstacles, personal decisions, and the weight of one's environment. While he remains behind bars, his music continues to echo as a testament to both his potential and the fragile line between hope and downfall. The stories of these 20 black celebrities remind us that fame can be both a gift and a curse. Talent opened doors, but choices closed them forever, leaving behind legacies tainted by tragedy. Some argue that their art should stand apart from their crimes, while others believe their misdeeds erase any greatness they achieved. What do you think? Can you ever separate the artist from the person? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence for more untold stories that challenge the way we see fame.